Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, wrong show. This literally, as soon as I hit the button, this leaf blower started outside, but that's all right. Welcome to the Bladtcast, except no imitators. This is the official Bladtcast. Welcome. I, as always, am the Blatt in the Bladtcast, except for that one episode you guys did without me. Christian Blatt, and down below, for those watching on video, is Clark Kent is here. Will Starling, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
And Jeff Duray.
I have this hilarious joke. Okay. So I'm going to ask you how you're doing, but when I do it, copy me, okay? What's that? Go.
What's that? I do love that. Oh, well, that definitely takes me back. And I
wanted to be in that pitch meeting.
Yeah. Well, in that pitch meeting, that guy was probably there, and he probably told him to go a little bigger with the "what's up." But I don't want to be left out, and this is only of impact and interest to our video listeners. I've done other shows this way, but this will be the first Bladtcast that I do where I try to fit in with you guys.
Whoa!
And I wear my glasses.
Whoa!
Look at these nerds, huh? How many nerds we got here?
How long have you had those?
A year.
Oh, so you've just been willingly walking around without good vision.
They're reading glasses, but and when I originally had the prescription filled, they're like, "Oh, do you want to add this extra like blue light thing for spending a lot of time in front of a screen?" I'm like, "How much time do I really spend in front of a screen?" And then I spent like all of 2020 in front of a screen, so I got new glasses on the way. But I did like 3 or 4 shows in it. There's the day that actually we did the whatever the last Bladtcast was that we all did together, the Christmas one. I did a bunch of other shows that day, and I had such a headache the next day. I had to like go back to bed. So I'm trying to wear them a little bit more when I do shows. In any case, great to see both of you gentlemen, and for everybody who hung in there for the break, waiting for our new episode. I'm so sorry to disappoint all of you because the conversation we're going to have is not about the highly suggestible figure who had mind control over all of Washington, D.C. and possibly the entire world. That would be Wonder Woman 1984, which I still want to talk about next week, but we had this day put aside. And it just seemed silly to talk about it today. Not that it's not very important, especially to the Bladtcast Nation, but I think it's important to point out that is not this episode. And
you think it's too late for Donald Trump to take back his wish?
It's never too late.
Okay,
he'll never renounce his wish.
Yeah, but that's a problem. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, his wish was long ago denied. When his father just didn't let him have his wish to be a real boy.
True.
But in any case, so this is going to be us talking a little bit about the world, and we know how popular those episodes are that we do when we talk about politics and things going on in the world. If Twitter's to be believed, we lost half of our audience when one person gave up on the show after 409 episodes, I believe it was. So we're ready to lose the other guy. Dominicus Saxon, Matt and KC, David Hines, we're prepared for, unfortunately, we don't want any of you to go. We want all of you to stay. But there have been people who, saw that episode in question and were like, yeah, I'm going to skip that one. I'll see you next week. I'm like, yeah, that's probably fine. So if you don't want to hear us talk about politics, then you probably won't want to do this. I think it transcends politics a little bit on some levels, but I especially a lot of people find me and find this show because you know me from the Dennis Miller show or the Dennis Miller option. And what I will say about Dennis is how right around the beginning, probably by the end of October, he's like, yeah, I'm not talking politics anymore. There's no win. And there have been a couple of days that have been some pretty solid reminders of that. And I would say January 6, 2021 was the ultimate, like, yeah, imagine having to, whatever you think about it, talk about it the next day. And, you know, when you're 67 and you just sold your house for $50 million, like, do you want that headache? You know, all stuff in the news. You know, kudos to our pal Larry O'Connor, who did 2 live radio shows during all of that. His wife Meredith, who was lovely, posted about him having to do that. But so we're sort of more doing it as casual observers. Don't come for the fair and balanced reporting that you've come to expect from OAN and Newsmax, because we just aren't smart enough to bring that to you. But I thought it would be odd to talk about anything other than that right now. And I just want to start off, as I do, with, let me get the plug-in. You know, we for a long time had a show called The Trump Report. That show's name now is Biden Time. And you can also, thank you.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's the reaction we want.
Riding with Biden.
Yeah, Biden Time. And you can find that on the Bladtcast YouTube channel.
So we've got Biden, my time.
Exactly. See, you get it. It works on multiple levels. So I always like to sort of start off shows like that with just a big picture reaction, overall thoughts. So I would like to yield my time, and the chair recognizes the distinguished gentleman from Massachusetts. You have 5 minutes.
What, 5 minutes for what?
No, it's just the way it works. You know, you can yield back any of your time. You could actually done now if you want to.
Well, first I want to ask you guys a question. So, I mean, it's only ever happened to me when I've been in the Northeast, where it's like the climate changes and then the area right above my eyes gets like super puffy, and I'll like wake up and it's like my eyes look like they're barely open because the top area is just like so puffy. And then I've had these horrible migraines lately. So that's what's been going on in my life. Anyway,
the same thing happens to my vagina lips when I'm in a cold climate. So I can certainly relate. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear someone tell me that it was pussy lititis, but I didn't want to buy that.
No.
Second, when you described when you talked about Dennis not wanting to talk politics, I just like had a juxtaposition of that like St. Louis couple, and Dennis just being like, I tried to hand Slim the 50. She said no. And I said, we're out of this joint like the Israelites out of Egypt. Sell. This is Wall Street, man. I don't know.
I like that impression. That was Dennis, right? So that Dennis, but that Dennis,
can't. It's like
a little bit like this. Oh God!
I love. Hey, Slim, let's get out of here. Yeah.
I can't do a good impression of him because I was never around him long enough to be like fair. By the time I got to the show, he was like minimum word. It was like he was like, I want to see how few words I can get paid for.
Yeah, no, at that point we were using the AI of him, and we had actually run out of words that he'd been programmed to say. So that's why so much of the show was, you good? Because that was actually one of the only ones we had. So we would just start a phone call, and then eventually, you know, we'd have like 3 minutes, and then we would just hit that and move on to the next one. But anyway, with all that fun aside, what do you think, Jeff? Just overall thoughts. We've had the night to sleep on it. What did you think while it was all happening? And you're probably, even though we're, you know, obviously all glasses nerds, I assume you probably hadn't put on the news to see the certification of the Electoral College, which I was watching expecting a different level of craziness when they cut away to talk about all of this. So how'd you find out? What did you think while it happened? And what do you think now a day later?
So don't judge me. I found out when you said, now we're going to be talking about this. And I went, oh, better look at the news. It was like, oh, shit, you know, yeah, we'll talk about that.
I love that. That's my favorite answer. So you're like, wait, why wouldn't we talk about Wonder Woman? Did they put out a third? Did they put out a
like, what happened now?
Great. Wait, is Wonder Woman 1985 out now, and we're going to talk about that instead?
Way better year. Far less.
Hey, what about Wonder Woman 1969? Anyway, sorry, that's not a very 2021 comment.
I mean, I've watched a bunch of coverage. It's kind of sad, and it's watching the news coverage is just like I see them reacting to things, and I think that there's a lot of legitimate points being made, but I'm also like, none of this is going to get through to the people it needs to get through to. So I don't even know why we're doing it anymore. You know what I mean? So specifically, it's like you see news reports discussing how like, what a slow and horrible response. Like there was no mass police response there like there had been for any BLM protest, which is totally true. And it's horrible. But it's also like, in the back of my head, I'm like, cool. So wait, am I supposed to be endorsing mass police presences everywhere? Like, well, I don't. Obviously, what happened is beyond deplorable. Obviously, just hearing the way even Republican senators were like calling in and describing situations like that woman who got shot in the neck, right? Oh, that officer's going to have to live with having done that. Whereas over the summer, we're watching people get run over by cars and then literally never hear about anyone being held accountable. So what the fuck is happening? Like, why am I supposed to care about someone who's a military veteran who's stupid and crazy enough to barge into and take the Capitol and try and bust through a window when someone's pointing a gun at them and she died for that? Okay.
Yeah. And obviously, the easiest way, and not to marginalize or make light of the fact that this woman was shot, the safest way for her to have not been shot would have been to stay out of the Capitol building. She could have been out on the steps protesting. Also, once she got into the building, what she should not have been doing is trying to crawl through the broken window into the room where some number of the 535 most powerful people in the country were, because that's where she was. It was the room. So that's why she got shot in the neck. And I think that the officer who shot her has to live with that, and also has to understand that in that moment, this was I didn't know what level of threat this was. These people walked in, they didn't hey, as we storm, we're going to go ahead and walk through the metal detectors, and you'll see that we don't have any weapons. So they had no idea what they were dealing with. And, I think that there's a lot of focus on that incident. And I'm surprised that only one person died from any side of any of this. Well, yeah, 3 people died from medical emergencies. Like somebody had a heart attack while he was on the phone with his wife. It was, and she had like told him, please don't go to Washington, D.C. for this guy from Alabama. I don't know the other stories, but I assume the other 2 are like that, so it was only the one woman who was shot. So, but before
I thought there was a video of some other guy getting like shot in the head, falling off steps. Was that just like exaggerated?
I don't think that person got shot. But it could be, but that's what I have here. In any case, Will, before we go into any of the minutiae or specifics, I wanted to get overall thoughts from Will, and important to point out before we get to Will that Sam Whitfield joins us. You haven't lost me, but he does have the word yet. So he's 13 minutes in, but Sam Whitfield, I now introduce to you your favorite liberal, William J. Starling.
I feel like in general, I'm sort of almost at a loss for words, because this should be considered unequivocally terrible. The fact that already, anytime something horrible happens, to watch people justify horrible things is like so now sickly funny in a way that it shouldn't be funny. We shouldn't be laughing. There shouldn't already be memes about this thing that happened just fucking yesterday. To think that people, the biggest thing, I was thinking this last night because I had a long conversation with a friend, to know, and I always use this as an example, that there was once a Republican candidate not long ago who was a former POW who was in the camp for 7 years, who was given the opportunity for early release, who said no, not until everybody else can come out, got out, lived his life as a fucking decent human being. By the time that man was pretty elderly and was going head to head with Donald Trump in terms of rhetoric and discussion, his party had given up on him and was embracing Donald Trump. everyone's calling John McCain a rhino, all these other things back in the day, right? John McCain was kind of one of the last people I feel like who was pretty outspoken about standing up to Donald Trump as a Republican. What it is about Donald Trump has nothing to do with the Constitution. It has nothing to do with freedom. It has nothing to do with America. This love for this person is not about pride in the country. It's an opportunity to seize this nationalistic behavior, this individualism that's me above all. This is what the country, this is what I deserve. This is what I'm owed. And this person is going to help me take it by any means necessary. It's ironic that they also have that perspective against other groups who would use the term by any means necessary. That out of all the opportunities of people to pick for strong leadership in the Republican Party, this man who was on record many times calling Republicans idiots. If he ran, he'd run as a Republican because they're stupid, admitting to sexual assault, not giving a fuck about religion. So much evidence flying in the face of people who are so desperate to be validated in their desire to enact taking advantage of other people the way that they had been taken advantage of at some point in their life. I don't believe that people who are ride or die Trump, this fucking crazy that they would storm the Capitol. They're so lost beyond, it's not patriotism. That's fucking insane. It's absolutely nationalism, bordering on this sort of fascist kind of bullshit, that to be surprised that they even got this far. Seeing this yesterday, I was like, I'm fucking not shocked. It's horrifying, but he's been sowing the seeds of doubt of the election of 2020 since he was elected. Calling, like, he lost the popular vote, but he became president and was like, no, I can't let this go. I have to find a way to have won both. Like, bro, you're already the president.
When he lost the New Hampshire primary to Ted Cruz, he said that's not possible, that he felt like that election was fixed, which, by the way, in hindsight, it is hard to imagine anyone losing an election to Ted Cruz. But to your point, that was always a thing. And for months leading up to the election, I always referred to the moment at Citizen Kane when he's running for governor, and he has two newspapers prepared, two front covers. One says Kane wins, and then the other one says fraud at the polls. So there were only two options: either you win or there was fraud.
Absolutely.
There's not. So I think Geddes was the guy he ran against, or whatever the case is. There was no cover that said Hillary wins. So it was like that's what they were prepared for. And in this case, it was like, and he clearly thinks that Joe Biden is a much lesser candidate. And in terms of as a campaigner, he certainly was, but Dr. Larry Sabato, who we used to have on the radio show a lot, who I follow on Twitter, he's the head of the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. And throughout the campaign, he would always say, polls are not votes. Polls are not votes. And, he's right, because, there were some of these crazy polls of like Biden up by like 14%. Yeah. And what I would always think at the time is that rallies are also not votes. So that's great when you can draw 20, 30,000 people.
Right.
But those are people that were going to vote for you anyway.
Yeah.
You didn't get new voters by having all of this. So go ahead.
I feel like that my friend last night kind of echoed the sentiment. And I was like, people refuse to accept the loss. We've talked about this for a long time, right? He's not taking his loss as well as he could have. But
he's not taking his loss as well as he could have.
When Hillary lost, like, were a lot of people like crying and sad? Like, yeah, I guess you could make fun of those people. But there was no world where it was ever going to reflect what it was. Instead, a bunch of women specifically got together and had a march. Peaceful protests, nothing got fucked up. A lot of people spoke. It was great. They didn't storm the fucking Capitol. And the fact that none of this has anything to do to me with these kinds of people, with Donald Trump and with the election. It's everything to do about the opportunity to get out into the world and fucking cause mayhem and destruction. These people want to fuck shit up. They're not interested. It's the same way that like anybody who was looting during any BLM protests, they're like, stop the madness. There shouldn't be destruction. There shouldn't be looting. It's like, yes, again, these are not people who are reflective of the movement. These are opportunists. Only this time we saw them seize the fucking Capitol and start to steal shit from the Capitol building.
Yeah, so, there was a lot of that narrative yesterday. And, I think that some people disagreed with me at the time, but like over the summer I was just like, yeah, I'm not supportive of people who decide that what they need to do is, trash local businesses and then go inside and steal stuff, even though that's the minority. I just like, well, that's not a great way to express your anger. And look, it's less upsetting when they do it to like a huge store, like they do it to Starbucks or Target or something. You're like, that company's going to be fine. But then when it's, small local businesses who then can't reopen after that, but it's completely different as to what your point is, Will, than storming through the Capitol building.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not the same thing. And there was somebody in the chat when I was doing Biden time earlier today that kept referring to those people as patriots. And I was just like, I appreciated the guy being in the chat. He actually had a lot to say. He had a very different viewpoint than the rest of us did. But I did make the point, which I'll make now, is those people were fucking terrorists. They're domestic terrorists. That's exactly who they are. And, the other part of the narrative was that, yeah, but there's no way these are all Trump supporters. I'm pretty sure these are all Antifa in disguise. And they're like, look, this guy's on an Antifa website from this event. And you're like, well, yeah, because he was protesting against them. Because if you just do a second click, and you have like members of Congress that are putting this out there, if you do a second click, you're like, yeah, but he's this guy from this white nationalist website, or,
Right.
This other guy. And it's like, it's very cut and dried. I was talking to my wife about this morning. You had in the morning, President spoke to his supporters for probably the last time ever, to a large group of his supporters. And he basically said, now why don't you go all march on up there and give him hell? I'll be right there with you. Just kidding. I'm going to go home. But, in spirit, I'm with you. I'm not really going to go up there with you guys.
Yeah.
So you had the people that went from this event right there. And, by all accounts, the Capitol Police and everyone were prepared for this event, but it didn't really seem that way. And
the video footage of the cops essentially just letting them in, and then there were so many of them, and there was video footage inside the Capitol. There was like one cop telling everyone to stop, but there was too many guys, so he just kept running away from them.
Yeah,
and there were multiple cops, and then there was even more people, and they were like, okay. And I'm like,
and I do think a part of it was when they made the decision that we're not going to try to fortify the building, we're not going to try to keep them out, we're just simply outnumbered. We have to protect these people. You have to protect all the, you had 535 because there was one open seat because David Perdue is not serving. So, you had those people that you had to protect, and that's the room where that woman got shot outside of. So that was what their focus was, is we're going to keep these people safe. They want to knock over some statues. They want to take selfies. Go ahead, in which we can talk about that in a moment. But yeah, I think that the idea that they ever got in the first place was the most shocking part.
Well, that thing is like President Trump is, the president of law and order. And then when law and order is present, they're like, come on in. Totally fine. Now, could you imagine if these people were people of color, if they were black? Like, what would the narrative be? People would be fucking losing their minds. And, people would be shot. I mean, more people would be dead. Like, I think the most poignant quote that I read that comes from a lot of this is like, we're not asking you to, shoot them like you would shoot us. We're asking you to not shoot us like you don't shoot them.
Yeah, I saw that, and it's I think it's a great way to to sort of summarize it, which it's not exactly the way that people thought about it, but it's like, yeah, that's really the point.
Right.
And you have the fundamental problem where the mayor of Washington D.C. Asked for the National Guard, but President Trump did not want to send the National Guard. And by everything that I've read and heard since, and I had two of my co-hosts on, I did almost call it the Trump Report on Biden time. I had them confirm but the reports that I had seen were that the only reason the National Guard was deployed was because they got Mike Pence on the phone. Because Trump never actually had the National Guard activated. So they were just like, well, I guess let's call Mike Pence. So, he, by all accounts, and it's tough when you have anonymous sources from inside the White House, but he really enjoyed watching it. President Trump did. It was exactly what he wanted. And only his kids were able to convince him to post anything, including that video where he went on to say, We know how you feel. You got to go home, but you're very special,
Good
and we
people.
love you.
Yeah. They're always good people. They're very good people. They're very like I'm just like to think that anybody would continue to support this person after he made such a mockery of their party and the history of the country in general and all traditions, which Republicans are very quick to remind us that traditions are important, except when Donald Trump is involved, you're allowed to do whatever you fucking want. It's so clear that these people in general, even supporters in general, are looking for justification to behave however the fuck they want and not have to pay attention to things like giving a shit about other people or civil rights or any kind of social program that could help people when there's a fucking global pandemic. And oops, it's too bad we don't have the tax like dollars set aside to help people who now are everyone's screwed. Like also this idea that like I don't understand. We were ahead in all the votes, and then we went to bed and we woke up the next day and suddenly the Democrats are winning. Like what? And it was like, yes, those are all mail-in ballots. You understand? Like how come that many people mailed them in? I'm like, well, because everyone's home because there is a global pandemic. Well, but there couldn't be that many. I mean, where are they? I'm like, again, they're home.
And it's also to use the most important logic. You know, they're just not that into you. You know, when you just take it from the movie of the same name. What were you going to say, Jeff?
I think one of my favorite things I heard on the news was you keep hearing all these cries of like these 74 million disenfranchised voters. And it's like, what about the 80+ million who you're trying to disenfranchise by actually stealing the election?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because they hold all these events that are called Stop the Steal events, but the only Stop the Steal event was what happened at about 3:30 in the morning Eastern time last night when they finally ratified, the 303 or 306 electoral votes. Like that was the Stop the Steal event, because all the other events are the steal event. And
the fact that all these Republican leaders in varying states, or like Georgia, when he calls them, and I know he didn't specifically say like find some votes, but if you like listen to
but he did. He said
say that exact phrase.
Find 11,780 votes.
I just need to find 12,000. I just need to find 11,780. Just one more.
It's one more. Yeah, it's one more. It's one more vote. It's one more vote because we won by a lot. And he's like Brad. Brad, what are we gonna do? You know,
there's like a better than not chance that he had put on a fake mustache to twirl and a Dick Dastardly like tall cap, and the whole time just like Muttley was in the background just like doing his laugh.
Yeah, he was Pierre Delecto, which reminds me what I was going to say earlier when you were talking about John McCain. There's one other person one other Republican who has been consistently very outspoken, and ironically, he also ran for president, and that's Mitt Romney, who was very consistent in these months since the election, but also yesterday. And there's not a lot of them. You have a few more than you did before. You had a few more in the evening than you did in the morning. You know, there were 12 senators all ready to object to these votes, and then there ended up only being 6. And so it's.
One of the other things I was just going to say about like the fact that all these judges, all these people who were actually Republicans who denied all these bids for subverting the election, and he calls the Secretary of State of Georgia, who is just a funny part of the other end of that call is just repeatedly that he was like, "Sir, I think you have the wrong information. I think you're getting the wrong like he kept telling him that he was like, I don't think that you are referencing the right information. Like people can't, if other Republican leaders at the state and federal level are like, yes, we agree, there's not a whole lot that we can do here. I guess we just got to take the L on this one. Like the fact that this many people can be like, no. These are all sleeper cells. All these people are fucking in it together, and we got to take back the country. Also, they always dress in like military fatigues and like police state shit, like they're tough, but I'm like, you have the fucking balls to join the military, like, but you want to play one on television? Like, fuck off, you pussy. Those guys are all idiots.
Yeah, and it was basically their Comic-Con. They wouldn't have it taken away because you had the guy in the Viking horns, and
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
these are all QAnon people, so
yeah,
in their minds, this isn't really. You have to like. I think what we need more than anything is just like therapy for everyone all the time, like free therapy all the time, available to anyone, always, because all these people need it. I need it. Lots of people need it. Like, you look at all these people that have bought into these conspiracies, it's because they probably just hate their life. Like, I don't know a ton about QAnon, but I know enough about conspiracy theory people to know that the majority of them buy into these things because the thing they want to believe more than anything is that they live in significant times and therefore are significant. Like, they feel like they're nothing and no one in a drift of whatever. But if you believe that your hero that you got to vote for and made president that one time is actually this secret pedophile stopping superhero, like, then you're significant and you did something real, and like the world's more interesting than going to work and coming home and just feeling really lonely all the time. And I think that's why people really need therapy. And I think you see all this anger, you see all this other stuff, you see the taking of the Capitol. I feel like these are all just symptoms, but the disease is like the loneliness and the sadness people are feeling that leads them to these things. I think the reason we're seeing so much stuff right now is because people are stuck at home and they can't get into their normal escapes from however they're feeling. And so they're just ramping themselves up. There's like nowhere to go to let off this steam. And then it builds into a frenzy, and you're all stuck at your computer reading this chat room of people that feel the same way as you. And you're like, yeah, and then let's go out and fuck shit up. And of course, yeah, let's do that. And it doesn't matter the group as long as we don't like cure this shitty sadness that's like really at the heart. Even getting rid of COVID and letting people back out into the world, like, this is going to be out there. That's why I think more than anything, it's like we really need to start helping people, like caring more.
And by the way, Jeff, as a public service, I wanted to help you amend your statement when you said before, I don't know much about QAnon. You forgot to do your wink, wink that was supposed to be.
I am QAnon. I mean, no.
Yeah. And I've heard this before from Sam Whitfield. The vast majority of Trump supporters that I know don't even know what QAnon is, let alone support it. And by the way, I think that is true. I think the majority, look, you talked about the 74 million people who voted for President Trump. The majority of those are not QAnon. The majority of those are not people who even were outside the Capitol building yesterday, let alone inside of it. You have plenty of people who voted, back to Dennis Miller in 2016. He said, I'm going to be voting not Hillary. And whoever that person is going to who I vote for. So there are people who are going to vote whoever has the R next to their name. You always have a percentage of that. And you have the people who liked him, thought he did a good job. And then you have the people who are, scared about Joe Biden the same way that people were scared about Donald Trump coming in. It's like, I just don't want to lose my way of life. And, not any of these extremists. So you have plenty of people that, that aren't part of any of this. And also, Sam did say this much earlier, that there was no justification for all of this. You have a lot of people, there are plenty of people who are saying, it's like, well, what did you think was going to happen? I'm like, well, I don't know, but not this, this, what happened yesterday. And obviously, there's a lot of, there was a post from the FBI where they're saying, like, we need your help in identifying participants and people who incited the violence yesterday. And there were many tweets that they did quote tweets, and they just had a picture of President Trump, and they said, we'll start here, because that morning he told people, and he said he was very disappointed in Mike Pence. And there are reports that people inside the Capitol were very specifically chanting and looking for Mike Pence. You had a guy who was in like military gear, and he had zip ties. So they were there to kidnap, or worse, these elected officials, despite what they tell you after the fact. Shockingly, most of these people were let to just walk right out of there when they were done. But when
leave your bombs on the way out.
Yeah, right.
Bombs they found in the Capitol.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. There's not, and you know what? I think that they're probably not talking as much about that because they're probably analyzing them. They're going to be able to figure out exactly who made, you know what I mean? I think sometimes when we don't hear as much about that stuff, there's probably a reason why, you
But
know?
just as a thought that they would be there in the first place is like, that's scary. That should probably be a topic of discussion to some degree.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
left by BLM protesters, everyone would be like, they fucking had bombs. They were Antifa's trying to kill people. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Jeff. I want to let you make your point before I bring another comment in from the chat.
My mind immediately jumped to if they find, like, if they know who laid the bombs, and they're essentially not put on death row the same way Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was, how?
Well, are they going to get a sexy photo on the front cover of Rolling Stone the way
They
he
better.
did?
Full nude. In
Our delightful friend Mary Z from the old Dennis Miller message board. She says the only people who know about QAnon are liberals. I have no clue who they are. And look, I do think the majority of people who the majority of people who voted for Donald Trump, they have no idea. They hear about it on the news and they're like, well, what is that?
Sure.
I think a year ago I had heard a little bit about it, but not much.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely something that, look, it's interesting to talk about on the news.
You just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Like Pizzagate, when that guy went in and tried to shoot people, that was a product of QAnon.
Right, exactly. Like I'd heard about Pizzagate, but I didn't realize that it was part of that. Yeah. So,
but I will say that it's like the only people who know about QAnon are certainly not just liberals because they were in the Capitol yesterday.
Oh no. But to both Mary and Sam's point, the majority, like, you know, your casual, you know, conservatives, people who vote, they don't know anybody who
people who know about them are liberals has the implication that like it's something that we invented to sort of like, again, it's Antifa in disguise go into the Capitol. I'm like, no, it's just in the news and we read about it, so we just heard.
Well, and I think the majority of people who know the most about QAnon are the 20 to 30,000 nerds in Viking helmets who were there, and they were playing Revolutionary War, and you know,
the dude in the Viking helmet's known as like the QAnon shaman.
Yeah.
So, but only liberals.
They have a shaman.
That QAnon. That guy is called some kind of shaman of QAnon.
Yeah. The guy who was in my chat earlier knew who that guy was. Yeah. He was well aware of who that guy was. So it's like, you know what, I'll even concede is like, all right, let's say 5 to 10% of the people there were Antifa in disguise, and I'm not really conceding, but like, but let's say that's accurate. What about everybody else? You know what I mean? It's not like all these people, you know, they're recognizable people, and you know, I don't know. I think that you have to really know where to go when you want to get. You know, there's the guy who had the Camp Auschwitz shirt. There's another guy who had a shirt, the abbreviation for 6 million wasn't enough, which is referring to the Holocaust. So, you know, these are very clearly people, and look, they're extremists, and this isn't most people, you know, this is, but
it's enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot.
That you can't, like, honestly, I'm like, no, don't let Republicans off the hook on this one at all. The only reason this shit's happening is because you guys are doing what's politically expedient instead of rooting out bullshit like this. Like, what's happening now is instead of John McCain be like, whoa, take the mic back, don't say that he's a Muslim, they're going, yeah, fucking Muslim, you should cut his head off, right? Yeah. So no, don't. They need to be held accountable. If the Republican Party doesn't take it upon themselves to take criminal prosecution against the people that incited this riot, Trump included, and other people, then they're the cowards who no longer deserve to have a seat at the table. You can't have a bipartisan system where one side is like, nah, fuck the rules.
Right.
And the other side's like, guys, come on, please, like, let's just be cool. Like, no, I'm done playing nice with Republicans. Like, fuck yourselves until you clean your shit up.
Right. And I mean,
this is all over you.
In the House, you had 130 Republicans that voted that protested the. It ended up being the electoral votes just for Arizona and Pennsylvania. It's about 130. It was a little bit more for, I think, Arizona, but because that took place before this. And you ended up having 6 senators. And, the Senate always prides itself on being a little bit more dignified. There's less of them, so they're probably easier to whip. And I don't mean that in the literal sense, but they're more inclined that when, you definitely have people that, McConnell said that, Mitch McConnell came out after the middle of December, after that benchmark, and was like, all right, well, clearly Joe Biden won. So we're going to have to, that's enough of this. The president had the right. And he had all those lawsuits that he lost 60 of them. And, the argument is that they didn't get the opportunity to be heard. But in the ones where they said, well, what kind of evidence do you have of this voter fraud? There was the guy who said, that there were no election observers from the Trump campaign allowed there. Well, what number was it? It's like he used the term non-zero. So it meant that there were some, but he wanted to say on the record, and that guy yesterday finally resigned from that law firm because he was just like, even I've had enough. Yeah. I'm willing to do legal like bullshit double speak and lie for the president, but even I am going to say I had enough. The only person who hasn't had enough really is Rudy Giuliani, who is just as a constant reminder of what happens when you surround yourself with idiots. Who look? I'm from New York. I was somewhat enamored with Rudy Giuliani, especially after 9/11. But the guy's a fucking cartoon character. He's a buffoon.
What a way to actually have like a pretty fucking dope legacy that would have really gone down in history, and then just set fire to it all like a pile of money, like the Joker, and just be like, I don't care about anything. I have no principles.
I've got a new JAnon conspiracy for you guys. Okay.
Go ahead.
So, first of all, you know that Jared Kushner's father, why he's in prison, right? He hired a prostitute and set up a camera to videotape his sister's husband, so that he could pressure her into not testifying against him for some reason.
Correct.
So, here's what happened. Trump has some sweet video of Giuliani, very easy to get, as we saw from Borat 2. Also, in that moment, you can see on Giuliani's face, like, not again. So, I'm just saying.
He does look very fucking exhausted, and just the black liquid dripping down his face. It's like, what are they? It's like just fucking, it looks like Jack Nicholson in Batman, where he actually has the reverse makeup on and he wipes his face. And
oh, that's right.
Underneath. He's like starting to look like that, where he's just like.
And by the way, Jeff, you referenced Jared Kushner's father. Worth pointing out, pardoned by President Trump within the last month.
I did read today that President Trump had potentially considered pardoning himself.
Yes, which I don't know the answer on, but I don't know that you can pardon yourself for things you haven't been charged with yet. It's not like you get to
just give my. It's like
my get out jail free card right now.
Yeah. I got this pardon in my back pocket, just in case. You know,
because expect to my Subway coupon. Oh, that expired 2 years ago.
But you have Rudy Giuliani, yesterday during the middle of this, he takes it upon himself to call newly elected Senator Tommy Tuberville and leave him a message saying that, we really need you to delay this thing for a little while, hopefully get it into late tomorrow. I promise you we'll have more information. He wanted to delay the process. And he said, he identified himself as the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, which, the president has been always been very quick to say, like, yeah, he's just helping me out. But Rudy Giuliani being Rudy Giuliani, he left his voicemail on the wrong senator's voicemail. So the question there is, was he just not listening? Because when you call, you probably hear the voicemail of, hi. This is Senator not Tommy Tuberville. If you would like to leave a message for me, Senator not Tommy Tuberville, please leave a message unless it's something incriminating, in which case you should probably hang up. And so whichever senator it was left for immediately turned it over. And the first person I saw with it was our old pal Steve Hayes, formerly the Weekly Standard. So it's like if you're going to leave, at least President Trump's conversation with the Georgia Secretary of State was a live phone call as it happened, and this was just like, I'm going to leave a voicemail that is clearly being recorded where I'm asking for something that is, probably a federal crime. But Yeah, and the fact that they finally reconvene, and I think that Mitch McConnell was insistent that they finish what they had started last night, even though it went into Thursday morning to like 4 a.m. or something Eastern time. But still, they didn't want to wait to come back the next day. It's like, no, we have to finish this, and you make the point. And I think that's it's rare strength, and there were some rare inspiring words from Mitch McConnell, who is not somebody that I usually find myself moved by hearing speak, but he had some very strong words for how important it is what they do there.
Funny enough, what's the guy who plays Andy in The Office? Why am I blanking on this? Ed Helms.
Ed Helms, yeah.
He did, and I was like, that's interesting. He said, part of me feels two ways about Mitch McConnell's speech. One, I felt legitimately moved by it. And two, saddened because it's clear he always knew better and did the opposite anyway.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that a lot of politicians know better, but do the opposite anyway.
That dude in particular, who has taken every single opportunity possible outside of storming the fucking Capitol to just be a fucking asshole. Like, there's not. I never get the sense when he makes a move that it's like not in the best interest of even his own party. It's just like hey, I know I look old and kind of like a turtle, but my dick is still it's a half chub. Do you guys want to see? And I'm like, absolutely not. Nobody wants to see that.
No,
go away.
Not even your wife, Elaine Chao, who also has resigned her cabinet position.
I understand the hyper masculinity that people associate with Trump and somehow Mitch McConnell and all these guys. And I'm like, they're always like, you could have a beer with Trump. And I'm like, first of all, he doesn't drink and he doesn't look like someone you could have a beer with. Look at his history. I think of it more like, wouldn't you want some dude who could spot you in the gym? You know what I mean? If you've got you're trying to go for 225 and you're like, okay, 1 rep max, I got to fucking hit this.
Wow.
You better fucking catch this. If this crushes me, I need you to pick this up off my chest and give me a hand. Absolutely not. He would let it kill you. So pick a better candidate, work out, come back next time and fucking do better. Like, I don't know.
This is why you should have been a Paul Ryan guy, because he clearly worked out. He would have spotted you. Everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that
I'd say got out. He was like, I gotta fucking dip. This is not gonna go well in a couple of years, so I gotta go.
Yeah. No. That's true. You had a few of those guys who were just like, no, this is not for me. I don't like where this is headed. And you definitely have the people that did the about face. You had Lindsey Graham speaking on the floor of the Senate yesterday. It was like open mic night. He was cracking jokes, trying to act like, he hadn't just within the last month also called the Georgia Secretary of State and also asked him to find votes that were hidden somewhere. It was just like, wait, you're like the ultimate enabler of this guy, So it's like, I'm not looking for hypocrites anywhere, because obviously they're everywhere. So you don't really need to look for them. But look, you had a handful of people who at least understood the gravity of the moment, but then you had the other people that, look, it was like 12:15 in the morning East Coast time, and people still objected to Pennsylvania. But before that, when a senator wouldn't endorse the objections for Georgia and Nevada, you heard like thunderous applause, because one, that was 4 hours of less debate by those, and I mean, they would have been there till like 8 in the morning if somebody had objected to those. And the Pennsylvania delegation, they feel like this is important to the people who voted for them. They're doing it for their own expediency, despite the fact that the changes that were made to the way that the election was conducted passed through a Republican state legislature in 2019, not last year, the year before. So they had plenty of time to complain about it, but then they didn't until they lost the election. And we talked about this, and the episode that caused us to lose our one listener, we talked about the fact that it's, Democrats stole the election for Joe Biden, but forgot to steal the House for themselves, or steal the Senate for themselves. You could say that now they have, but I mean, they lost like 40 seats in the House. It was like they did not do a good job of stealing that election. They were so focused on stealing president, they forgot about getting any of the other races their way.
So it's basically a jewel thief who dropped their incredibly expensive piece of equipment on the way out and are like, shit.
Yeah, no, it's like you break into the Louvre, you steal the Mona Lisa, you got away, you didn't leave a fingerprint anywhere. You did it like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, but your fucking wallet fell out, so it's right there underneath where the Mona Lisa was. So they're like, oh, God damn, it would have been the perfect crime if only I wasn't an idiot, which is really what it goes back to. President Trump is not smart enough to have surrounded himself by smarter and better people. He said he's going to hire the best people, but Rudy Giuliani is not the best people. And that's really the terrifying part of this, is how easy it could be for this to have happened. There are people that wanted this to succeed, the 20,000 people that were there yesterday. But you've made the blueprint now. And, if you're somebody on the left, you could argue that the left would never do this, but they know how to do it now. They've seen really what it takes. And they're like, well, it works. If you had people who were more efficient and better at their jobs, if you had Kevin McCarthy as the Republican Speaker of the House yesterday, that would have made a tremendous difference in the way this all played out. The Senate still would have been the Senate. Most likely, it still would have died in the Senate, is basically what happened. But you now know how to steal an election, and you got close enough where you're like, well, great, next time we'll get it right. And I think that's somewhat, there's a lot of terrifying things from yesterday, but that is like, ultimately, that's the legacy of it is, well, what if they do it better next time, whether that's 2024 or, 2036, like, the next time where somebody tries to steal it. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, one thing that was in my mind is just like coded language, which I know Trump is supposedly notorious for, right? And I noticed something, I don't know if this was from his speech yesterday, but specifically talking about our beautiful republic, right? Whereas everyone else is talking about saving our democracy, he's talking about our republic. And I'm not a political expert, but I always thought the difference between the two is like the idea of a democracy is about we all vote and our votes all together are what make the decisions, whereas a republic is you vote on an elected official and their votes are what we all have to do. So it's like he's instilling the idea of like, well, I'm in charge now because you said I was in charge, so now I can do whatever the fuck I want. I don't have to represent you anymore. And like continuing to code these things into people's minds is what's going to lead us into some kind of autocracy if they're successful in their next coup attempt.
Yeah, I think that that's the sort of thing that that you look at it, and even people who, like I said, maybe would have liked to have seen some way that the election could have been overturned for President Trump. Well, it didn't work, but what if next time that's what happens? What if it gets overturned for Biden's second term? Or it gets overturned for Mayor Pete running for president? It's there's a lot of those questions. And
Melania Trump 2024.
Well,
I don't care to you. That's her campaign.
Would you?
She is ineligible to run for president, unfortunately.
Not if he pardons her on the way out.
No, it's because she's a foreigner.
Yeah, he pardons her foreignness.
Well, now that's something that makes sense. He's like, I'm going to pardon my wife for being a foreigner. Yeah. And there were a few people who I think handled yesterday admirably. I had some surprising compliments before for Mitch McConnell, and Sam was quick to remind us that he's Cocaine Mitch. Absolutely, I know. Like literally nobody likes this guy. On any side, it's just
winning re-election.
Well, no, the people in Kentucky like him because you always like your guy who looks out for you, and he does. So that's really all they care about. You just need to be liked by 50.01% of the people in your home state. That's really all you need to succeed.
Can I pitch him like a TV show to boost his popularity? Call it Old Age Mutant Political Turtle.
I like it. And the what I was going to say was that I thought that putting incredibly tough spot. I thought that Mike Pence handled yesterday very well, clearly telling the president the day before and reiterating that morning is like, I can't do the thing you're asking me to do because one, it's not like I'm not able to, it's one, I don't want to, but I heard somebody very intelligently describe his role yesterday as the person who opens the envelopes at the Academy Awards. That's really all he was there to do. And, he couldn't refuse to accept anything. Other people can object, but he can't actually be like, no, I don't like this one. I don't like the way this is read. This is Times New Roman. All right. I only take Arial. So I refuse this one. So, I think that he just made it very clear that's like, he's even like, we got to get back to work. And he literally had a target on him for that whole day. And this is the one time he went against this guy, and look what it didn't, everything that went before didn't matter. And you have people who are very proud supporters of President Trump who are even saying today that this one day really undid all of the good that he had done before. So whether you think he did anything correct before or not, those people are just saying like, well, this is your legacy, and I'm sure somebody took a picture of him with his feet up watching, on OAN, watching the footage yesterday, his feet up, probably had the KFC double down. He doubled his double downs.
Man, that would have been smart decision. No, he likes hamburgers though. I would think that
he does like hamburgers,
he
but
looks like the fucking Wimpy from Popeye, who
would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
His body shape is exactly Wimpy from Popeye. It's so I never thought of that until now.
I have a somebody that I know from AfterBuzz she always posts about like, we can't body shame him. It's not right to people who have their own body image.
Yeah, but those people aren't Donald Trump.
Well, that's what I'm like. Yeah, but it's like, sure, but that's the stuff that's going to bother him, like, that. Like,
I've always been like, if I were to run a hypothetical campaign against him, all I would do is make fun of him for not working out. And I would just be as buff as I fucking could and be like, why don't you come meet me in the gym, bro? Let's see what happens. Let's see if you can write legislation fast enough with those weak little hands and those forearms. Like, you got to pick at his, I'm not saying like, I'm not trying to body shame him for being overweight. He's just weird looking. He's like his no chin, his hair, everything about him is just like a cartoon character of Rudy Giuliani. It's the same thing for him.
To be fair, I am body shaming him for being fat, but to your point, that would be the campaign. It's like, look, this is what he looked like 10 years ago. Yeah. Look what he looks like now. This is what he's going to do to the government. He's just going to make it bloated, and gross, and just covered in grease.
Look at formerly fat Will, and look at Will now, swole. Looking sharp, got a fresh fade, maybe a mustache every once in a while. I just shaved it off. Sharp glasses. Listen, come on, me versus Trump. Let's go, hands down.
Yeah. Hey, by 2024, you can run for president, can't you?
You're right. I can.
Okay, we're going to start the campaign now.
Only if Sam Whitfield is my campaign manager. He has to be a campaign manager for me, so he's running a liberal campaign.
Sam Whitfield, will you be the chair of Will Sterling's campaign? Now, just remember, Will's campaign is going to be all liberal policies, but will you still chair the campaign? That's the question. So that's what everybody wants to know.
Will's going to open the Gore Vidal Institute for Super Gayness.
What?
I love that it's Gore. Well, I think you mean gender fluidity is probably what you're referencing, because
I wish I understood that joke because I have no idea what that means.
Isn't Gore Vidal the guy who was always arguing with William F. Buckley when they had their famous debate back in the? So it's like basically
the beginning of the crossfire.
Yeah, there was a documentary, the Best of Friends or the Worst of Enemy, whatever it's called, and it's basically about Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley and how they basically were arguing about the same shit we're arguing today. So just when you said you were going to be super liberal, I just thought you would open the Gore Vidal Institute for Super Gayness. I can't get out without laughing.
Plus center, we could say all kinds of things that would probably.
And late breaking news: Sam Whitfield, I'll do it. So Will,
okay,
we get the exploratory committee.
Or get swole. That's going to be the best.
I mean, how great is that going to be?
Yeah, 2024 is when America gets swole, and it's just going to be like the United States, but it's just going to be a fucking giant arm like that, like fucking.
I honestly want to ask the people for whom this was it. What did you expect from a man who entered the political stage by very blatantly lying about his question about the legitimacy of another sitting president's place of birth?
Yes. Yep.
What did you? He came into the stage lying about something we all knew was horseshit. Where was it supposed to go from there?
Look, I think that the fundamental question, it goes back 4+ years. The success of Donald Trump would not have been possible if it weren't for how much people hated Hillary Clinton. I mean,
Obama.
But she was the one on the ballot. And
I know, but you're coming off the heels of all this,
one of the most divisive figures in politics, and you can say the same for Trump now, but it was like, the appeal in 2016 certainly made sense. Oh, here's this guy from the outside. He's going to drain the swamp. And by the way, this swamp has certainly gotten swampier in the last 4 years. I mean, it's
swampiest fucking taint that has ever been swamped. Like, this is going to the Everglades and not showering for like a solid month, and then reaching your hand in between the nuts and the butthole and pulling up and being like, "Look at Washington now, motherfuckers. How about the back of this hand?"
No,
that's what this was.
This was Donald Trump's strategy. He arrived at the swamp from Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing started coming out, and he just started pissing on him. And he said, "Yeah, this will get you out of here, right, fucker?"
He's a good guy, though. I would hope that Swamp Thing could effectively drain the swamp, because he's just, only he needs to hang out in the swamp. He's Swamp Thing.
You know what I love about Swamp Thing is that Marvel has the character Man Thing, who is basically it's the Hydrox to Swamp Thing's Oreo cookie. It's just like hey, but what about this guy?
It's the Namor to Aquaman. Let's be real.
No, look, I mean, although we did this on the show, and Namor was created in the 40s,
but nobody gives a shit about Namor.
No, but didn't he come first? Didn't we get to the bottom of that?
Shit about
him. But Will, I know it's going to hurt you to hear this. Nobody gives a shit about Aquaman either.
What about Captain Marvel?
What about the rest of the world who spent over $1 billion watching it in the theater?
Okay, to be fair.
No. I'm talking about the other Captain Marvel.
Oh, you mean Shazam?
No. The other Captain Marvel.
My
point is that there's a lot of Captain Marvel.
Yeah. You mean Monica Rambeau, who will be appearing on WandaVision on Disney Plus 1 week from tomorrow?
I mean Marvel.
Oh. Look, Sam Whitfield agreed with me, so he gets his comment on the screen. Trump wouldn't have made it if it weren't for the sheer hatred of Hillary. Yeah, I mean, I think that if that had been Biden, but Biden was shamed out of running in 2016. I don't know what Hillary had on him, but it was like, you are not running.
And that was his son had just died.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to stick with my theory because it's less sad. But yeah, it's so. Oh my God, another comment. He loves my glasses. Thank you, Sam. You know what? I'm going to say what Dennis would say. Sam Whitfield, you hitting on me? Because it's cool. I mean, I got no problem with that. That's fine. I just want to make sure that I know what's happening.
He's the first applicant for Will's new institute.
The Hall of Justice. That's what Will would open. Anyway, so I don't know what the future has. I don't know what the next 2 weeks have. You have a lot of people that are saying that
23rd.
Well, you have people that are saying that Mike Pence should invoke the 25th Amendment. And I would just say that in the same way that he wasn't the guy who was going to use the certification of the Electoral College to overturn a democratically elected president, he's also probably not the guy who's going to take the mantle of president in this way. But
he's like, I could run in 2024 and I might.
Well, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure that was the plan in 2016 when he signed on as the running mate. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even want it now.
Why not? Like, let's just do it. Just pull the ripcord on that. Kick him out. Spend 2 weeks as president. Just be like, I mean, you got to put a painting up of me somewhere. At least I got this. Like, he's old, you know. You can't. I mean, he's not that old, but you know, you never can be sure.
Yeah, no, it's true. What were you going to say, Jeff, before we...
I was going to say, to repeat a joke I emailed to Will, is it regular irony or Alanis Morissette irony that Trump may be the one getting locked up at the end of all of this?
I think that's regular irony, because Alanis Morissette irony is 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife. You know? Which, I mean, you could probably do some decent cutting with 10,000 spoons, you know? So it's, you know.
If it's like a gelatin type thing, you just need a spoon anyways, right? Like a key lime pie or that's like true. A flan.
Flan. Well, I don't know. I'll be interested in seeing, you know, what happens over the next couple of weeks. You know, here's what I hope happens in the next couple of weeks. Absolutely nothing. That's that I think is what I'm looking for, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks to everybody who humored us again this week. But I promise the next week, I can't promise, because what if the world gets even fucking crazier? But how could it be crazier than yesterday? But I feel like I just jinxed it. As you say, jinxed it. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like the next time we get together, we're going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. Hashtag WW84. That'll be fun to talk about, which you know, I saw outside of the home. I saw it theatrically, drive-in theatrically, but I still saw it.
Was that like better?
I don't know, because I didn't watch it at home, so I only know the way I saw it.
I watched it on the projector, and that was fine. Pretty big.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be cool. So we'll talk about that next time. And I think that I appreciate everybody who chimed in the chat, and everybody who's watching, and all the tweets that we get afterwards from people who have decided to withdraw their patronage from the Bladtcast. We had a good run. I you know what? Even losing the other guy after 409 episodes, I was like, you know, he hung in there way longer.
Oh no, he's listening. He's still
no.
Hate listens are a real thing. People That's like true. To make themselves more angry. Yeah. They listen to people they hate.
I heard that from Howard Stern's Private Parts.
The hate listening? Yeah, that's true. That you mean the movie is Private Parts or his actual Private Parts?
No, his dick was talking to me.
Oh yeah, well that sounds about right.
I actively hope that he listens to the motivation report just so he can demotivate himself. That's how much he listens to everything positive I have to say. He's like, fuck you and your positivity. It makes me more negative. I'm like, yes.
Speaking of hate listening, I had the thought a little bit earlier that when I read that the my baseball team, the New York Metropolitans, as the great Apu characterized them, when they made a deal earlier today with the Cleveland Indians, to get basically two of their best players, I immediately, of course, thought of Paul P., who is from Cleveland. Yeah. And I was just thinking about, like...
He was there yesterday at the Capitol. You didn't see him in the Twilight makeup? He's like, I will suck the lifeblood of everyone in Congress.
Yeah. No, he wanted to go, but even those guys were like, no, we're good. We don't need you, Paul.
He's like, but Tom Cruise keeps himself young by drinking baby blood, guys. It's a real thing. Like,
yeah. It's like, no, that's all right.
I wish there was a video of Steven Crowder at the stuff yesterday. He seems like he'd be a really good, like, you know, calming presence in the storm.
Yeah, that was...
Did you see that guy tweeting at you? What it was like your reaction to something someone said. And then some guy tweeted at you where he was like, "Yeah, Christian, prepare for the storm." And I went and looked at his Twitter. Big mistake. Real fucking nut job. So be careful about whoever that guy was.
We did talk about this because I tweeted about this, and it is fucking true. Talking about beware the storm. A storm is coming. Yesterday was the ending sequence of The Dark Knight Rises. The fucking shot for shot, the same goddamn thing, minus there being a Batman and a Bane. But it was like, I was like, oh, cool. I guess life imitates art now at this point. Like, we're having this insane, weird siege fight on the steps of the fucking Capitol building.
I'll give the Capitol building to you, Gotham.
I picture Bane Trump though, so I was like, you should do it's very important that if you're going to stay peaceful, go home, that maybe something should happen away. Yeah, just like
you're doing Bane Trump all wrong, because this is how Bane Trump goes. I don't wear that mask. It's for queers.
Well, it does get the letter Q in there, and that is a coded message. So you see, there is.
Can you imagine? Donald Trump is like, I won't wear the mask. I'd rather have the pain and look real cool in front of everyone.
It really
I'll go to the hospital real quick.
It really was reminiscent of The Dark Knight Rises, though. And I know I sent you guys the video that it turned out was from June, but Batman showing up on the scene, and it just made me laugh because you had just posted that, and surprising, I didn't realize he was watching, but Daniel Beck congratulates me on the Mets trade. They have an owner who spends money and is a fan of the team, which is something that they haven't had in my lifetime. So it's very exciting. Yeah, it's easy to be excited. But what'll be even more excited, that was smooth. What'll be even more exciting is on our next episode when we talk about Wonder Woman 84. It'll be soon. And just look for it, or if you subscribe, it'll just show up one day next week. You'll just have it. But if you want to see us, just follow us all on Twitter. Well, you don't know if you can follow Jeff, but you're not going to really get much information out of that,
But
not worth it.
No, Jeff, I would like to get you a CB radio or something equivalent to that. I think that's how people should interact with you.
Breaker 19. No, I got to get out of the house. Like, people come to the door and I'm like, I gotta hide behind this. I don't want to talk to anyone.
Well, that's why we do this, because at least you're talking to someone. But both Jeff Duray and Duray Jeff are out there. Maybe just scroll back through the old timeline and look for some forgotten jokes. Will Sterling at Will Sterling _. Can you apply for the not underscore if that guy hasn't used it, or it just doesn't work that way?
I don't know if it works that way. I should look back into it. It was an older man. Looked like he had grandchildren. So I should really just put the pressure on, especially if I'm going to ramp up my 2024 campaign.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't have the underscore. Yeah.
Your first task, get the at Will Sterling and strong arm into giving me that Twitter handle. That's your assignment. And
Daniel asks if Mets fans are going to have a parade like Padres fans. I wouldn't put it past us, in all honesty, Daniel. So we'll see. Although not this year. I guess this isn't the time for parades. As always, you can follow me at Christian DMZ, Twitter, Instagram, and if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're not watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Bladtcast YouTube channel, BLADTCAST. That is where you will get Biden time. Thank you. And next week, we will have the triumphant return of Marvel Movie Talk, where we're going to spend the next 9 weeks as kind of an after show for WandaVision, which premieres next Friday, January 15th. So we'll talk about that. And tune in tomorrow for the season finale of our Star Trek Discovery after show, because it's the actual season finale. That would be weird if our after show took the season finale like a week or two before. I'm like, no, we're good. We just don't want to keep talking about it. Although there's shows I covered that I would have done that for. But anyway, we appreciate everybody who hung in with us while we did it live, everybody watching now. And we will see you next time on the Bladtcast.